Hey everybody, how's it going? Um, in this video, I wanted to talk about how you should start planting your garden right now. Um, and to be honest, depending on what part of the country you live in, you probably should have started your planning back in January, and in some cases even started some seeds and stuff probably in mid-February. But I'm behind on getting my videos out, so you'll have to take that into consideration. But anyway, I'm out here in my yard right now trying to plan out exactly what I'm going to do with my garden spot and with some other big projects I've got planned. Some of the things that I want to do, I wanted to try to work on a different garden spot than what I've been using the last couple of years. The one I've been using, the soil isn't the best. I've tried amending it a little bit. But there's one spot in that particular garden where you hit what appears to be limestone about 3 inches down, 3 to 4 inches down, and it's not great for growing anything right there. So I wanted to try to move my garden to another spot. That spot that I had in mind just so happens to be occupied at the moment, though, with my current shop, shed, tool shed, whatever you want to call it. It's a 10 by 10 shed that me and my dad built a few years ago, and it's deteriorating due to weather. It wasn't properly weather protected, and that's just due to neglect, my lack of attention to it at the moment. But what it's led me to, though, is to consider a new location and to rebuild my blacksmith shop, which is my big project that I want to complete this year. And that blacksmith shop is gonna, my current tool shed is about a 10 by 10. The shop that I want to build is going to be roughly, probably somewhere along the lines of a 12 by 20, maybe a 12 by 24. I'm not certain yet. I'm still planning it out. But the spot that I want to place my new blacksmith shop happens to be occupied by that right there. All that brush you see is yard debris, yard trimmings that I've piled up over the past couple of years to burn and haven't had the time to burn it. There's some bushes there that need to be cut down, but a lot of it is also where the power company came in and replaced a pole right here, and in the process they trimmed off a whole bunch of branches off that tree right there, that oak, and there's a poplar there. They trimmed a whole bunch of branches off of it and just dumped them right here. So before I can even work on my new garden spot or my new blacksmith shop, I have to take care of all of this. Now there's some firewood material in that, but the majority of it just needs to be cut up and burned. And I'm hoping to start doing that over the next few days. I've got the next 2 days off. I'm going to be trying to do a little bit of that. And with my one Sunday off every single week, that's my one day off. Hopefully I can get it done. I'm probably not going to get it done in time to start my new garden spot for this year. I seriously doubt it anyway, because that would require me to build my new shed or my new tool shop and tear down my old one within just a couple of months. I'm not going to have that much time off. But that's what I'm looking at right now. But getting back to the subject of this video, start planting your garden now. You need to plan out exactly where you're going to have your garden, what you need to do to prep it, any amendments you need to do to the soil. If you need to run water lines to irrigate, now would be a good time to start planning that out. you also need to be planning on what you're going to grow. That's one thing I'm going through right now. I've got some stuff that I'm going to grow that I grow every year. Rattlesnake pole beans, Cherokee purple tomatoes, my grandmother's okra, uh, and a few things like that. I've got some peppers I want to grow, a little bit of squash, uh, but I want to try to do some corn this year. In years past, I've tried corn a few different times, and I've never had much luck with it. But I want to try it again this year. This just a little bit different, and so I'm trying to pick out what seeds that I want to order, what seeds I want to buy, and what I have on hand, because some of my seeds, like my okra, my bean seeds, I save those from year to year. I haven't quite gotten around to saving any of my tomato seeds, unfortunately. Those are a little bit more involved. Okra and the beans, you can pretty much just let them dry out and then bam, you're done. But tomatoes are a little bit more involved. Anyway, but yeah, you need to start planning out what you're gonna grow and how much of it you're gonna grow, things like that. And I think the gardens are going to be important this year. Food in general is going to be a major issue for 2021. With things that I'm reading in the food industry, uh, you know, Bill Gates is pushing for all first world countries to move into, as hard as this is to believe, move into lab produced meats, 3D printed meats, and even bug based, insect based meats, and move away from animal agriculture. Bill Gates is actually the largest owner of farmland in the United States, and my guess is that it's his intention to lead the way when it comes to producing plant-based foods and even some of these other things that he's behind. He's really behind the insect-based meat for some reason. I'm not going to live off bug meat. I'm sorry. I refuse to do that. I'll raise my own meat animals before I do that. But there's that, and there's supply issues that seem to be happening constantly because of the pandemic. Hopefully they'll ease up, but I don't think they will. Then you've got the massive amount of spending from our government that I guess they believe that our country can run off monopoly money because they print it like they're just putting it on a Xerox machine. It's ridiculous. All of this money, all of this debt, a reckoning is going to come. Part of that reckoning is going to be inflation in the form of higher food prices, higher prices on everything. They're pushing this $15 minimum wage, which might not affect us directly this year, but I believe it will take effect, and it will have an effect on prices of everything. You're going to have people being laid off. You're going to have companies going faster into automation than they already are. And the companies that do maintain people, they're going to have to compensate paying higher employee wages with charging more for their product. So it's a domino effect in a way that all of these different things are going to affect the food industry. So it's my belief that food costs and access to food is going to be more difficult in 2021 and probably even worse in 2022. I'm already seeing reports where in the UK they're considering COVID vaccine cards to prove that you were vaccinated before you can even enter a grocery store to buy groceries. Things like that really concern me. So it's really important that you start growing whatever you can of your own food. Produce as much as you can. Learn to can your food. Not just water bath, but pressure can. Pressure canning is safer for a lot of different types of food products, specifically meats, but also for other items. Water bath is okay for a select few items, but if you can, get you a canner, get you some jars, and start teaching yourself how to can food. Grow your own vegetables, can them. If you're into it, if you have the time and the space and the interest, start raising some chickens, some rabbits, quail, things like that, and start canning it. Find local producers that grow or that raise cattle, small local producers, and sometimes you can find a deal to buy half a cow and have it processed. Sometimes you can go in with another family to buy a whole cow and you split the meat between you. There's some options there, and it's things that we really need to be considering, because I honestly believe food is going to be one of the major issues coming in 2021. Um, just because we have somewhat easy access to it right now doesn't mean you can rely on that, and you need to be able to be at least somewhat food independent. And that's why I'm looking at expanding my gardening spot. Uh, the area I've really got to amend it a lot this year. I need to work at trying to automate the watering a little bit better, because that was one of my big pitfalls last year. I was working so much I wasn't able to weed the garden and water it as much as I wanted to. I've got me a solar powered water timer to set up for soaker hose and sprinklers, and I'm going to try to set that up this year. That requires me, my current spot though, requires me to run about 60 to 80 feet of water line to the garden spot so that I can supply that irrigation. The new spot that I want to move it to, it would be less than half that. But there again, I may not be able to start that growing in that spot this year. It really all depends on how much I can get done and how quickly I can get it done. Realistically, though, that's probably a 2022 project. The blacksmith shop and the garden is going to be a good chunk of my early spring, because a lot of the wood from my blacksmith shop I'm going to be milling with my own chainsaw mill. So I've got to take time to cut the trees, mill the lumber, stack the wood, let it dry. Then I need to treat it and build with it. So that's a time-consuming process. It's not something you can slap together. And I chose to go that route, one, because I like the look of the old mountain-style buildings, barns, and outbuildings. Second, if I have my own chainsaw mill and can produce my own lumber, that's money I don't have to spend on lumber. I can spend it elsewhere. And not only that, with the way lumber is these days, lumber's nearly doubled in price on a lot of, at least in my area, and it's continuing to go up. So there's that benefit from it. And I have a lot of, my uncle has a lot of trees on his property that he's willing to let me cut down. He wants them gone. There's some oak, there's some pine, so I've got an opportunity to collect a lot of wood that way. So there's that. But also the blacksmith shop, another reason I want to do that is because I've mentioned in the past I'm a bladesmith. I make my own knives and I sell them. I do custom orders at times. I haven't done any recently simply because of my work schedule. That's really interfered with everything, all of my projects, all of my plans. But I'm wanting to step that back up, try to get that going again in the event that if more layoffs come and I happen to be one of the ones getting laid off, hopefully I won't be, but if I am, I want to have that sideline, that side job going so I can produce a little bit of money. I'll have my gardens to produce some food, and it'll just help provide security for me and my family. But yeah, my projects for this year, to clear up this huge mess you see right here, and this is going to be my new blacksmith shop right here. I need to work on amending my garden, cleaning it up, amending the soil, adding good timed irrigation to it to make it a little bit easier to manage if I do end up working a lot of overtime. I've got the fruit trees that I need to prune and shape up, one of them in particular, and I plan on doing a video on that as well. I have a pear tree that was on this property when I moved in. The thing is about 40 or 50 feet tall. They really let it go. I've tried to prune it back a few times. I've even topped it once and cut about 8 feet off of it. But it's really out of hand, and I really need to do some serious pruning to it. So I want to do a video on that as well. I plan on doing some videos on the progress on my blacksmith shop as I build it. That may go up on my Patreon page. I may give occasional updates on this YouTube channel, but I'll probably go more in depth on my Patreon just to put some more content there. And I plan on doing some videos on the garden as I go through it this year. I had a lot of failures last year. Like I said, watering and weeding the garden was my biggest failure last year, but also there were some plants I wasn't able to tend to. I put out some pepper plants. They died almost instantly, didn't really produce anything. My okra plants did not do too well because they were in a new spot. I've been trying to grow in a new area and not having much success at it. My tomato plants are still a challenge for me. I'm not really good at growing tomatoes. That's something I've really got to improve on. So I'm not afraid to tell you that I'm not an expert on a lot of this stuff. I've worked in my grandfather. I remember when I was a little kid, 8, 9 years old, I'd be following my grandfather around as he tilled his garden every year, and I'd be working with him as they harvested beans, shucked corn, things like that. But gardening, especially when it comes to producing a volume of food, there's a big learning curve to it, and even with that experience I have from my childhood, I'm still trying to figure a lot of this stuff out. That's an ongoing process, and I want to try to document a lot of that for you guys. Aside from that, I've got a bunch of other trees around here. I want to clear up my fence line this year because a lot of it's overgrown. Normally I would like the privacy, but some of it's damaging my fence. I've also got 2 sections of fence that has been damaged by falling trees, so I need to do some repairs on that. So I've got a lot of big projects and a lot of work ahead of me this spring. So that's what I'm out here doing right now, is I'm trying to plan all of this out. I want to also add a deck onto the back of my house, which that's low on the priority list, to be honest. But yeah, I've got all that to do, and I've got a lot of planning to do and a lot of work to do. But I would strongly suggest that you start planning your gardens now. Figure out where you're going to plant, what you're going to plant, how much you're going to plant, and if you can automate the watering system, automate the watering of it, that would be better. Anything to make your job easier. Another tip that I've figured out from the last couple of years, my garden is about as far away from my house as you can get on my property, simply because it's one of the few spots that I've got flat ground on my property, and can get good constant sunlight, because about a quarter of my yard is flat and sunny. A quarter is heavily wooded and on a downhill grade, probably about a 20-30 degree grade. And then the front yard is also, which takes up about the remainder of the property, is heavily shaded with trees. So I've only got a small area I can garden in. So, but I'm sorry about that. I got a little off track. But the garden spot is about as far away from my house as you can get. And the thing with that is, the farther out it is from where you walk every single day, the less likely you are to go to it, to tend it, and to work in it. The closer it is to your everyday areas, the more likely you are to spend some time out there. That all goes back to permaculture and your different zones, for anybody that's familiar with that. So, placement of the garden is key. If you don't have a lot of time, you want to be able, where I want to put my new garden would be fairly close to my driveway. That way when I get home from work, I can step out of my truck, the garden's right there, I can see it. It's a reminder, hey, go out here, tend to the garden of 20 minutes a day. And if you can do that, it makes managing the garden and maintaining it a lot easier. Whereas if it's on the backside of your property and you'll go out there maybe once a week, well, then you have to spend 2-3 hours out there at a time trying to get caught up on all the stuff that should have been done during the week. So, out of sight, out of mind, as they say. But start planting your gardens, plan everything out. And if you hadn't, start seeds. Go ahead and do that now if you can. Grow lights aren't that expensive. You can get them at Lowe's, Home Depot, and Walmart, I believe, even has some. But yeah, take charge of your garden. Take charge of your food supply. At the very least, start producing something that you eat. Every little bit will help. All right, for now, guys, I'm gonna get back to what I need to get done. I'll try to get some more videos out as quick as I can. I'll probably do another couple of videos over the 2 days that I'm off and try to upload them the end of this week or by the weekend, something like that. Until then, I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate you staying with me, subscribing. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, like, share this video if you get any use out of it. And take care of yourselves, guys. Take care of your families. Watch your six. I'll catch you guys later.